the President's State of the Union address is taking place tonight, so we decided to bring in a frequent guest of the show. She's the former director of events for the Clinton White House and the author of the book, Eat, Drink, and Succeed. Please welcome back Laura Schwartz.
Hey!
Thanks for being here. So, let's talk about what is happening. What is the President's Day going to be like, and what's he doing right now?
It is so exciting on State of the Union days because it's your last push to get everything in the speech. There's last-minute prep going on. The speechwriters are making last-minute changes. The President himself is practicing the speech. They use the White House Family Theater, and what they do is they take out the front seats and push them to the back. They put up a podium, the teleprompters just like they'll be tonight, and then the speechwriters will have a big, like, 8-foot banquet table in there with computers set up, phones, ready to go through all the changes.
And will they correct the President as he's rehearsing? Will they say, wait, hold on, President, say this, or don't say like that, and put your inflection
they'll say, you know what, that doesn't work quite right, or hey, you're going too fast, make sure you pause because that's going to be an applause line, or you know what, go a little bit quicker through that because you know the other people are going to boo. So they practice the tempo, and really up to the last moment they'll be tinkering with the wording. You know, NSC, the National Security Council, might say something about Afghanistan and say, you know what, that word isn't strong enough, use this, or on Iran, let's use this instead. So it's very interesting right up to the last moment.
So he'll go over that speech about how many times today? 20 times?
He's gone over it a lot already. You know, this speech takes about 2 months to write. About 2 months ago, the cabinet agencies will start telling the policy folks at the White House what they want in the speech. Doesn't always get in the speech, but then they'll kind of hem and haw and decide what are the legislative priorities, what are the accomplishments, and what does he really see for the year ahead.
Now you saw Clinton. You were there with him. How much did he rehearse? I know he liked to change things right a lot.
He's notorious for changing things in the limo on the way up to the Capitol, and it's a really neat limo ride. The motorcade is very formal for this because it starts at 9 p.m. Eastern. The motorcade will leave the White House, take the same path of the inaugural parade on Pennsylvania Avenue to the chambers, and basically, in the President's limo, you usually see the President and First Lady go in. Well, night of State of the Union, the President goes in, the First Lady goes in, and like 3 speechwriters with their laptops would join in as well. And then once they got up there, one speechwriter would run off back of the house. The chamber is over at the house, and they put the little disc in. At the time it was discs, now of course it's all electronic, but then the White House Communications Agency guys, they do all the teleprompter work. They've got time, maybe about 6 minutes, to make those changes and get it up into the prompter. At the same time while they're doing that, the President's being announced in the chambers by the Sergeant at Arms, and once he gets to that podium, speech is there.
Like a well-oiled machine. When does the press get a look at the President's speech?
They'll most likely put up some excerpts this afternoon that they know are going to stay in. But then the speech, as prepared for delivery, goes out at about 8:58 p.m.
And what are some of the things you think he's going to talk about?
Well, I think he'll look at legislative priorities that he can get done. Immigration is something we saw just this last weekend and yesterday, the Republicans talking about a path to legal status, maybe not citizenship, but legal status, infrastructure, rebuilding of schools and highways. So he has to be somewhat measured. Well, that's something that he spoke about just yesterday, raising it to $10.10 for federal workers that have not yet contracted with the government. And that's what they want to see go legislatively as well, instead of just by that executive pen.
All right. Tell us about the designated survivor. This is the man that stays behind, and if everything goes haywire, he's running the country.
Yep, when you think about it, that chamber tonight is filled with the President and Vice President, all the members of Congress, the Supreme Court, the cabinet secretaries, and diplomatic corps. Now, everyone that's in the line of succession to the President is under that roof. Now, God forbid anything catastrophic happens, you have to have one designated survivor. That survivor was picked a few weeks ago by the Chief of Staff and notified. That is not released until when tonight in the chambers we see who's missing. Well, that cabinet secretary is taken to an undisclosed location. He or she has been briefed in the last few weeks about the legal continuity of government, if anything, God forbid, happens. And wherever that person is, there are a full security detail, fire trucks, because if anything would happen, that person would lead the free world.
Does the President pick the designated survivor?
No, the Chief of Staff weighs in on it.
Okay, so let me ask you about the aisle hogs. I think you can figure out what we're talking about by the name, but they start gathering now, right?
Oh, it is so much fun. You know what? State of the Unions happen every year. Sometimes you got to pick out the really interesting things. So sure enough, a memo goes out from the Speaker's office for the senators and the representatives. You cannot save your seat by putting down a card. You cannot save your seat by putting down a jacket early in the the day. You have to have a physical presence in that seat. So there are some members that will go and sit there 8 hours before it even starts tonight because they want to be on that aisle. So when the Sergeant at Arms says, Mr. Speaker, the President of the United States, the President comes down and shakes the hands of those on the aisle, and they might want to use that in campaign footage. They want to tell their people back home, oh, I got to talk to the President at State of the Union. Might have just been a high five, but they can say, oh, I had a deep conversation. Right. And so they stand in line. They stand in line for that. It's great.
It's a great bathroom.
Yeah.
I think maybe there's a congressional courtesy there, but they better not take too long because the Sergeant at Arms, they're allowed to take any jackets that were on the chairs. Just like if we're at a theater and you're trying to save seats and all of a sudden your stuff is removed, well, they'll remove it.
Or church. Right. They do that at church, too. It gets a little heated in there.
And it's going to get heated tonight. You know that.
It will. Oh, real quick, though, who's going to be in the First Lady's box?
Oh, some wonderful people. The GM, new CEO, first woman CEO of an auto company, Mary Barra. Jason Collins, the first NBA player to come out, as well as 2 of the survivors of the Boston Marathon bombings, and the fire chief from Moore, Oklahoma, who oversaw the devastation after the tornado, and a kid who's 14 years old, was at a science fair in the East Room and shot a marshmallow from one end to the other. He's now an intern at Intel. And they'll talk about science and technology tonight. And those folks are in the box so that when the president talks about a policy, it can give a face to that policy. Sure. And so it's a wonderful moment. It really is.
Great job, Laura.
Meet the parents of that 14-year-old kid. See what they're doing.
Will you come back tomorrow and join us?
You bet. We'll do a little readout on it all.
All right. Sounds good. You can pick up Laura's book. It's called Eat, Drink, and Succeed, which is in stores now. Great stuff, Laura. All right. Coming up a little bit later, we have